Good morning. My name is Jamar Hardy. I'm a graduate assistant with the Physical Education and Sport Department at Central Michigan University. This is Dr. Vincent Mumford. He is the department chair for the Physical Education and Sport Department at Central Michigan University. Today, we'd like to discuss with you our topic, facilitating sport management student engagement during a pandemic, and what sport management education looks like during the pandemic, and some of the techniques that we tried or the project that we tried, and hopefully it can become guides for the years to come in the sport management education field. As you all know, 2020 was impacted heavily by the coronavirus, and we're still going through the midst of a global pandemic. It's had a great impact on higher education and how we instruct our classes and what the campus life looks like now. Sport and what arenas and sporting events look like. Sport management education has been changed drastically from the projects we host into the way we teach class. Now, COVID-19 is an infectious disease that has disrupted our normal learning strategies. The way we reach our students has changed from face to face majority of the time to now these high flex or just totally virtual formats. We're dealing with less engagement from students who are not in the classroom anymore, and intern and volunteer opportunities that are normally there have been dwindled.
Like Dr. Hardy just mentioned, COVID-19 impacted my teaching as well as how it's delivered to how we deliver sport management education. Because of the coronavirus, we had to change our modes of delivery. Normal for us was face-to-face, having students in class in person. We had to go from that immediately to face-to-face or what's called a hybrid or high flexibility approach. And the underlying premise behind the high flex model is safety in the form of student choice and flexibility. Next. Now, because of this change in delivery modes, we had to make some minimal changes in content, but some significant changes in delivery. Next. High flex classes on our campus were classes that were delivered both in person and online at the same time by the same faculty member. So I was in class, some students were in class, some students were online, and we were delivering that content to them at the same time. And it's important to remember that students can choose, for each and every class, whether to show up in person or whether to attend online. Next. So the challenge for us was, how do we create a high impact educational experience that can be facilitated, not only online, but these practices had to account for the fact that some students may be, in a space where they had limited or unreliable connectivity. According to the American Association of Colleges and Universities, there are 11 high impact educational practices that increase student engagement. One of the identified high impact practices is experiential learning in the form of service learning, where you involve a community partner. The idea here is to give students direct experience with things that they're learning in class, and have ongoing efforts that analyze and solve problems in the community. Now, a key element of our class was to provide our students with an opportunity to both apply what they were learning in a real world setting and reflect in the classroom setting on their service experiences. And we felt that a service learning fundraising project would be one of the easiest for sport management faculty to adopt during these difficult times brought on by the coronavirus. Now, out of that, we came up with 4 strategies to help instructors better engage students. strategy number one, or we have here listed theme, but strategy number one was imagine. Here we're talking about tapping into students' imagination. And to do that, you have to provide them with meaningful experiences that create value for them. We partnered with University Annual Giving Program to create a scholarship for sport management students, with the payout beginning during the spring semester. Strategy number two was involve. Here you have to make sure you involve the students. Find a way to connect everyone to the project and have everyone contribute. Here the students came up with what they called success trees. And they were trees named after regular trees, oak, spruce, pines, you name it. But these were things that the students came up with. And we were still teaching sport management concepts. They were learning sport management concepts: planning, organizing, leading, and evaluating. And every student had to have what's called a SMART goal. Strategy number three is inform. You have to keep the students informed. They have to know what the score is, to have a pun here. And the project should be one that ensures that they are learning the material that we're presenting in sport management education. It was a student's idea, and this is funny, and we could go off on a tangent, and I could talk for 20 more minutes just on this, but we don't have the time. But they came up with using Venmo to solicit and track donations. And we held updated meetings to chart and show their progress. And we literally put theory into practice. They were learning fundraising strategy, everything from prospect identification to qualification to cultivation, solicitation, and stewardship. These were all the things that they were learning. Strategy number four, inspire. How do we inspire the students? Here, you reward innovative behaviors, the kinds of things that you'd like to see. And you work to create an open environment where students feel supported and encouraged. Dr. Hardy's going to talk momentarily a little more about the incentives that students came up with during this project.
So with this project, there were a lot of things that worked. One of the first things that Dr. Munn talked about was safety and flexibility. The fact that we're dealing with a pandemic, we're dealing with coronavirus, we have students that are worried about catching that, but still want to make an impact in class, and with this class, make an impact on Central Michigan's campus with creating a scholarship fund for sport management students. So we gave them the opportunity to take the class, whether they were at home or coming to physically in class, and that saved them a lot of time, and then it just made it better for them. But one of the things that comes with HyFlex format with having students that attend class virtually is that they're less engaged. So one of the things that we did to counter that worked really well on us was making sure that students always kept their cameras on. Now that's something simple, but it's something that's very effective. Making sure that the students see you and you can see the students makes a world of a difference. And then calling on students, making sure that they're participating in that, they're a part of the lesson. And then it's just with the HyFlex format and with this type of project, it was less stress on the students. They're able to complete a project and be a part of class activities from the comfort of their home and still being included in everything. And then Dr. Mumford spoke about incentives, and this is something that the students worked hard on to provide incentives for not only the students in class, but provide something for people who wanted to give. So some of the incentives they had were gift cards to local restaurants and sporting outfits and signed memorabilia from people like the Pistons and the Lugnuts. And they even got a Kindle Fire donated. Now, when the Kindle Fire got donated, we can admit that the numbers spiked. Kids, they care about AIDS, but they also care about material things as well. So when they got the opportunity to do that, there were a lot more interest from people to donate. And then what didn't work? When we're dealing with a pandemic, we can't expect for things to be perfect. We can't expect for things to stay the same. And one of the things that was greatly impacted with that was the lack of peer interaction. Now we're in a virtual setting right now as we speak, and it's different. It's different than if we were sitting in front of the faces of people and really being able to connect with them. And with the lack of peer interaction, the lack of students being in the classroom, you feel it. Students are less likely to be engaged or less talkative. But when they're in the classroom and they're around each other, ideas begin to spark. One student asks a question, and then that sparks three more to ask a different question because now they're thinking more because they're around peers, people like-minded. And then the struggles with adapting with this new learning environment. A lot of students are used to these classes being physical and them being able to be in front of the professor. As you see, the next part talks about the decreased instructor presence, and that can be felt when you don't have the guidance of Dr. Mumford right in front of you. You can feel it. Students are more likely to just leave class with questions instead of sticking around, or just providing those 20 to 10 minutes after class or during class for group work is something that was missed this time. And then outside distractions. This is something that couldn't be controlled all the time because students are taking classes in a variety of places. We've had students take classes on road trips or even during break at work. And we can't make their distractions go away. We just have to make them more engaged in the project. So after this project, we look at what we could have done differently because we're always trying to improve. We're always thinking about innovation and making the field of sport management better. And especially with this project, we thought about increased focus on instructions. As you come to find out as an educator, there are always going to be questions, and students don't always ask those questions during class. They wait until 3 weeks after you've given the assignment, 4 weeks mid semester, and things of that nature. And that was something that we dealt with. We understood that students just didn't fully understand certain things, and that troubled us because we gave them opportunities to ask questions, but we just have to sit down and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then requiring progress updates every week. Dr. Mumford talked about meeting with leaders and having these updates about how the project's going. And we just have to make sure that their students are communicating weekly in class about where we're at, and we're holding, and they're being held to this standard of completing this project at a high level. Because with a project like this, where you're creating this scholarship fund, you're becoming bigger than yourself. You're creating something that's special, something that you can use on your resumes or a talking point for years to come. You created an opportunity for someone else who was struggling. And then providing outside time for individual group meetings, just providing that time that we don't have anymore in the class, where we separate the last 30 minutes to 20 minutes of class for group work. Just providing time where everybody can meet in that group just outside of time, because with HyFlex you're left with maybe some days one kid in class and 15 online, or 7 in class and 8 online. And it's just something that you got to navigate and be mindful of.
So, what are some of the takeaways from this experience for sport management education? We believe that a service learning fundraising project can be incredibly flexible in terms of how it can be implemented and can be designed to increase student involvement and student engagement. In our presentation, we have suggested 4 strategies to help instructors better engage students. And although the details of this sample assignment are particular to our course, the framework that we present is general enough that it can be adapted to most sport management courses, including those taught in person, those taught online, or those taught in some kind of hybrid format. Not only can a service learning fundraising project promote conceptual learning, it can also deepen student engagement with the subject matter and, as Dr. Hardy said earlier, with each other. That concludes our presentation. We look forward to the question and answer session shortly.
So this is the Q&A for facilitating sport management student engagement during a pandemic. There are 2 faculty members from Central Michigan University, Dr. Vincent E. Mumford and Mr. Jamar Hardy. They were in the COVID-19 track. and a smaller session here, so not really the need for a typical generic moderator where you raise your hand and I prompt you to ask a question. We can have more of kind of a conversation between the six of us, which hopefully we'll get some good, insightful things out of. Dr. Mumford and Hardy, Mr. Hardy, if y'all want to introduce yourselves or start it off, however y'all want to kind of kick off our Q&A, that'd be great. And then we can kind of open it up to just have a conversation.
Okay, well, I've never kicked off a Q&A session before. Usually it's the presentation before the Q&A. But I'm Dr. Vincent Mumford. I'm a professor at Central Michigan University. And with me is...
Hey, Jamar Hardy. I'm a graduate assistant for the physical education department and a teaching assistant for the sport management department at Central Michigan.
So we are here to answer any questions you may have about our presentation.
There we go.
I'm trying to pretend as if we just presented it.
I gotcha. It's working.
Give us a blurb.
A blurb. You want to take this one, Dr. Hardy, or you want me to do it?
You can. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, our presentation was on, like everybody, we're dealing with some very different times, and we wanted to talk about how do you facilitate student engagement during a time when we're going through this experience of a pandemic. And as we all know, it's affected higher education, sports, and thus the teaching of sport management. And so kind of the outcomes of what we talked about was some strategies that we've used to try to engage students in the classroom. We teach in what's called a HyFlex model. And that means on our campus that students get a choice of whether or not they're going to be face-to-face in class or somewhere else in the universe. As the professors, we're in class and facilitating the learning experience from there. And so we just, to sum it up, we've had 4 strategies that we've come up with to help further student engagement. The first is what we call Imagine, and that's, find a way to create value for the students and provide meaningful experiences for them. The second strategy is actually involve the students, use some of their ideas, find ways to connect everybody to a class project, using their ideas, but also, which leads us to strategy number 3, which is inform them, keep them informed, during this time of COVID, when people are in class, in the classroom, it's important to make sure that everybody knows what the score is. We come from a sports background. We're keeping score about everything. So we introduced a project where that's vital that you keep score. And using some of the students, again, a lot of the students' input. We did a fundraiser for student scholarships while teaching them the important skills of fundraising, whether that's prospect identification, qualification, cultivation, solicitation, or stewardship. They were kept informed all along of exactly how they were doing with relationship to the project. That made a big difference. You could feel and see the engagement. Every week they had statistics. And then 4th strategy is find a way to inspire their students. And here again, they have their own ideas. The students in the class came up with ways to reward innovation. Dr. Hardy, I'm going to throw this over to you because you were working with them on exactly what those ways were, what they came up with.
Yeah. So with our project, one of the hardest things about projects with COVID, with this HyFlex system, with not being in front of the students every day, is finding ways to incentivize, like coming to class, finding more people prospecting, more people to donate, and just keep going. So one of that was that they found people in the area that were willing to donate things such as gift cards. Like we got gift cards from Buffalo Wild Wings, other eateries around the area. We were even able to get a Kindle Fire donated, and like Dr. Murphy said, like it's time winded down as the weeks went by, and we had these meetups in class where kids would be like, "Hey, we got this donated. If you get this many people to donate, then you're in the running for this." And as the weeks went on, you just saw the engagement and continue to increase, because like these students that not only cared about their grades, but they also got something out of it as well. And I think that one of the most successful parts about this project was really putting it in the hands of the students. We were lucky to have two leaders that Dr. Muffer can speak to that really were in charge of this whole incentivizing the going out and getting more people. And they went out and really got like things like the Kindle Fire, which we were never expecting, like donating cars and money like that those things are ordinary, but to go and get something where the students, like, you can see it in their eyes, they're like, okay, well, now I've got to go and beat my classmates. Like, it was really a competition, which I think was really successful for us, making class more of a competition than just coming into a lecture. Once you make it a competition, like, it really puts the sport aspect into it, where you got students like, well, now, like, it's not like an A is for everybody. Now it's like an A is only for those who really have the attitude and effort to give to it.
Yeah. But it was almost like walking into The Price is Right at some time. Students like, I want that Kindle Fire, so I'm gonna work a little bit harder now. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Do we have any questions?
Yes, but I just want to start by saying I think it's a great model. Loved everything about it. And I never thought of seeking donations to as an incentive across the board. I'm definitely going to try that. My question was, so for this model, I may have missed it, but was it implemented across all courses within the program or just a select few?
No, this was just a course that I teach.
Okay.
Which is the capstone course, but it could be implemented in any course. The key here is using experiential learning, which many of us use in sport management anyway. It could be adopted to any course, any subject, but for our presentation, it's just a course that I teach, in sport management. Good question.
Any other questions?
Sandy Shelby here from Texas. So if I understand right, and I'll be honest, I only watched part of it because I didn't get through it all since I was trying to get to another session. So I apologize.
No need to apologize. I understand. It's tough to try to, even when you're at the conference in person, it's tough to get to all those different sessions.
I wanted to make it as real as I could then. That's my excuse. So as I understand it, through this course, you were in class with students and then not in class with them. It was was it more of a flipped classroom, or what actually was it?
Oh, we're go ahead, Jamar.
Yeah. So he spoke to it first. All of CMU is on this high flex type of the way that we deliver class, where students have the ability and the opportunity to choose whether or not they're in class or not. So Dr. Mumford, for these classes, we have an 8 a.m. and a 9:30. For the 8 a.m., you can imagine that not as many students are willing to come to the campus to come to class. So we would more often than not, get like 80 to 20%, 80% are viewing from online. And then the 9:30, some majority of the time we would get, a split, an even split, or, sometimes it depends on the kids and what they're feeling like for the day. But yeah, no, it was one that was split. Sometimes we were always in the classroom, but we taught the students whether they were in classroom or virtually.
The reason I ask that is because one of my courses has been moved, and I'm looking ahead to next academic year. I was told yesterday that my course that is traditionally taught face-to-face is now going to be online all the time. And so I'm trying to figure out how to come up with opportunities for that student engagement and that interaction activation for them to actually do these projects. Because you know as well as I do, to try to get students to pair up or group together or do something when it's all virtual is much more difficult than even if you have them as a hybrid where they're here some one days and not here another day. So any guidance on that for what you're looking at?
Well, we do have times, it's in HyFlex, but we do have times where we require them to actually come in class to engage. And what has been important for us is to identify, because we're teaching the skills that you'll need in sport management, one of which is leadership and teamwork and working in groups. We model that through experiential learning. And so we do the typical things like we choose leaders, but we give them autonomy and accountability. And so, the leaders play a leadership role. And that's important for student engagement as well, in terms of having those leaders to make sure that, and they're working with the people in their groups and their peers on these projects. And it gets to a point, at least my experience is, they'll let you know when someone is not as engaged as they need to be. They don't hesitate to come to me and say, Dr. Mumford, this person is not participating like we need them to. And then also, because everybody is tied, we found a way to tie everybody to what we're doing. Like there's literally accountability built in. The students set their own goals. So for example, this last semester, the students set a goal of each student had to raise $512. I do not know why they chose a number like 512, but they did. And so that became something where everybody knew that if everybody did what they were supposed to do, then the students would achieve their ultimate goal of $20,000 that they wanted to raise for a student scholarship. And so as in anything, a lot of students met or exceeded the goal. Some didn't, that's like in we would see that if we were working in any organization as well. But the students, there was some accountability because the students were holding each other accountable as well.
Right.
I hope that helps, because
I'm just trying to figure out how I could maybe introduce something like this to an all online course, because that's what it's going to be.
What are you teaching?
It's a introduction to program and event management.
Okay.
I've taught it for 12 years face-to-face, and I've been told since we changed our degree plan and now we're offering it completely online, that since it's one of the core courses, it has to be online all the time now. And we were presenting grants to foundations here in the community. We were doing a lot of the engagement, kind of like what you're talking about, with projects where they came in together and were able to run through it and talk through it and really feed off of each other face to face. Well, now I'm going to be without that. And so I'm trying to figure out how best to provide as much opportunity for not just the engagement, but accountability. And like you said, to really try to figure out who the leaders are in that class.
Yeah. So we have them choose leadership. They have to choose leadership, and we tell them that great organizations, the best organizations have the best leaders. And we look at things like, what's your favorite team? And of course, the team that, usually a team that has had great success year after year, they have a great coach. Well, and we tell them the same thing is true in the world of business. And so it's important to choose a really good leader, and not just, I learned things from students. One time, students did like this. I had no idea what that meant. I was just looking at them. Sandy, do you know what that means?
On the nose.
That means they didn't want to be it.
Oh, yeah. Not me.
And so, but we found that having a structure where they're actually student leaders lends to more student engagement, because there's you know, the accountability from the professor, which is the ultimate accountability. But then there's peer pressure that's involved, and it can be good peer pressure as well. But you know, that helps with accountability. And you know, like you, we're having to modify all of the things that we did that we thought made our program really strong, was that hands face to face. And now we're in the same boat you're in. And I'll do you one better. Nobody at my school knew what, is this being recorded?
Yes.
No one at my school really knew what HyFlex was when they first said we were going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never heard of it before.
right.
Yeah, I haven't heard of HyFlex. Our lingo is distance learning, hybrid, or in person.
Right.
We were
Now,
HyFlex.
we offer the flipped classrooms now. So
Yes. Well, so, but Sandy, I'd be happy to, you know, anytime you want to give me a call or you want to hop on and have a longer chat, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about, you know, your project or some of the things you're doing, or we can go back and forth on ideas.
Okay.
You know,
I appreciate that.
yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Love to do that. But you have to send us one of those really good Texas coaches.
We don't want to get rid of any good ones.
Well, we want the good ones.
We need the good ones.
We want them in North Carolina too, so send them this way. You know, we're highly competitive as well.
Now, is James Whitaker, see, a part of engagement, James wouldn't be in our class. So if James is here, James would be absent.
Right.
Because when you're in an online environment, you have to be engaged. You have to have your camera on, and you have to be engaged with the group.
It's actually quite a vicious environment, honestly.
Yeah, James, there he is.
James.
Hey, all right. So that's.
I'm one of those students that's doing two things at one time and doesn't want you to know about it.
Yes, and so that therein lies, you know, students they tried that at first, but when we, you know, talked to them about student engagement and the importance of it, you know, especially now during this time of the coronavirus, they bought into it. And so, and it's funny because you hear professors that teach other classes who started out, we started out this way, but professors that teach other classes that just kind of let them not turn on the cameras and things like that, you hear them like, well, we don't know if students are in class or not in class. Well, we know you're in class. We know what your house looks like. We know everything. We see your cats.
No, he's not
And I
kidding.
thought I was the only one that did that, because I had to explain to them, like, I don't know you're really there, because at my part-time teaching job, they were having other people log into other devices in their names. And so when I was calling on that specific person to speak, they wouldn't speak. They would type in the chat spot, oh, I'm having mic issues. And several were doing that. And it's like, no, I need to actually know it's you. But this is what they do now. So they're on camera, but I'm like, I need to see your face.
No, we have one just like that. Dr. Mumford is Trey, but Trey is probably one of the most engaged students. Like, he'll come and he'll flip it down and be like, hey, no, I'm here, and he'll start talking. But I think one of the best things for us is, like, we're not afraid. Not saying any of you are, but like Dr. Mumford, when we first got in, was like, you got to be on them, you know, and it'll be me sending 4 emails during class, like, are you there? Sitting in the chat, hey, are you there? I'm scanning everything, watching them, and I'm letting them know, like, you get in the absence if you're not here, and then 5 absences, you know, it reflects poorly on you. So, like, the whole accountability is totally on the students, whether they pass the class or not. I think that's what's really been successful, is, you know, while face-to-face and experiential learning has been our main thing, getting out there and getting right in front of each other. But now we have to find other ways to really lean on our students. As Dr. Mumford always tells me, like, he can't be right in front of them all the time. So now I'm going to make 7 points of contact with you. So you can't tell me that I didn't try to help you out.
Nice. I don't want to, I'm not sure if James has a question. I just had one more. So our capstone is not necessarily a capstone. We kind of split it apart. So for ours, they have a senior seminar, which they primarily focus on their research. And then they take the internship is another cumulating, or however you say, cumulating activity. So for your capstone, what is it specifically, the objective of your capstone? Because I was trying to figure out how I could implement something like this in one of our capstones, but I just want to see what was your course.
Our capstone is as you're aware, it's a culmination of trying to assemble everything that they've learned while they've been a student in the curriculum in all their classes into one capstone project. And so ours is kind of a consultative type of project where they're working with in most cases, a community organization, and going in and trying to find, maybe a problem that organization has, and then coming back with a solution, and then helping to implement that solution using what they've learned in sport management. That's what we normally do. But because of coronavirus, we made it about the students. And that's one of the things that really helped with a student engagement, because one of the things we were hearing once coronavirus hit is that students were having, and their families were having financial challenges. And so we decided to make the project about them, and we were able to work with University Advancement, because we've established a sport management endowment. We were able to work with University Advancement to not put the money into the endowment, but to put it into the spendable, so that we can turn around and just give that money to needy sport management students. And so the students saw value in that. And we've actually had, students in the class that said, can we work with you to help distribute this we know who the needy students are. And so, but that's work for us, but that's what we do with our capstone. James, how you doing? I like your office.
Thank you.
Now, where are you?
I'm at Columbia International University in Columbia, South Carolina, small private university.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You're right down the road. I'm in Charlotte.
Okay. Where are you at, Dr. James?
Queen's University,
Okay.
and part-time at Johnson C. Smith and A&T.
Very good.
How many jobs you got, Dr. Jones?
You don't tell my dean, but I got probably about 5.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Oh, this is being recorded?
It's recorded.
He can edit it, I think.
Yeah, we'll edit. We'll do some editing, huh?
She knows though, but I've backed off a lot. I used to do a lot. Like I was their full go-to person, but I backed off of a lot of places a lot.
Great. All right, y'all. If there's any other questions for our presenters, we can go ahead and ask them. If not, we'll end this presentation and hope you join us for our Q&A with Director of League Operations for the WNBA, Bethany Donovan, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So here in 20 minutes. Hope you can join us for that one. Any other questions before we go?
Well, comment. I just want to thank everyone for showing up to this Q&A. And if anyone would like to talk about any of the things we talked about offline, or if anybody would like to collaborate on any research about any of these things, we'd be more than happy. So thank you to the host. Great job.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.